So for the first one, did we find that these lines were parallel, perpendicular, or neither?
Neither.
Why neither?
Because they have different
And what were the slopes?
slopes.
I think this one was 3/5 and this one was 5/8. You could have also put the slopes aren't the same, they don't have negative reciprocal slopes, any of those explanations. For this one, were these parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Perpendicular. And what were the slopes of these two lines? Read over 4 of the one. And then for this one, negative 4/3. Make them perpendicular. So you're reasoning negative reciprocal slopes. I am not right today. It's alright. First one was neither. Second one was perpendicular. I know my numbering is weird. I had to. You see that mine is on 3 different pages. I had to smush all of this on 2. Yes. So for this one, this was like multiple parts. It told you what these points were. It told you, or it asked to find the perpendicular slope of line L. The slope of line L was -2/5. So the perpendicular slope would have been
5.
5/3. And then it said plot another point that would be parallel to line L. So really, you could have either remember that this is going by 2s. So if I need to go down 2, right 5, this would be going down 2 and right 5. You could plot any of the points that I'm about to plot. So down 2, right 2, 4, 5, 2, 5, 2.
I don't really understand that question, so I'll put L. I'll put this over L.
For A or for B?
For A.
So, I mean, you could have put that slope, but you also needed to find the perpendicular slope.
Okay.
So write that one next to it. So any of these 5 points you could have plotted because any of those had the same slope as line L. Yes, Alex.
I go to the right.
Yes. Do we have questions on any of the ones we've done so far before we continue? For number 4, it's asking which of these sets are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So you needed to solve some of these to see that. Well, B, I can tell already that these aren't the same, and they're reciprocals, but they're not negative reciprocals. So those are going to be my neither case. I'm just going to put B instead of rewriting them both. So A is either parallel or perpendicular. When I solve this, I have to subtract 2x to the other side. And as I'm looking at these two slopes, I have 1/2, I have -2. Those are negative reciprocals. So A for my perpendicular lines, which means C has to be my parallel lines, and just say C what that looks like. I didn't show all of my steps there. But the equation for this first one is this. And then the second one these both end up having a slope of -3/5. So those are parallel. Question about that one? And then the last one, they wanted you to see if these were parallel perpendicular or
Wait, I
neither.
have a question.
Yeah.
For C, on the bottom one, how did you get rid of our -3
So we would have had to divide. I didn't show all my steps here because I didn't have space, but we would have had to subtract 12x and then divide everything by 20. And you would have had to simplify. So I can divide both of these by 4 to get 3/5.
Okay.
And then divide both of these by 2.
Mm.
That's it then.
Thank you.
And then the last question, these, they solved, or they looked at these two equations. One thought they were parallel, one thought they were neither. You have to solve this one and see which one was right. So subtract 6x on both sides. And divide everything by 3. So we have -2x plus 7. Who was right? Ashley, because they were parallel, they have the same slope.
They had the same slope, but they went to the same point too. Like they were, I was up on Desmond, and it was actually
True. Actually, yes, I'm sorry, I missed that. So, no. If they weren't, if the y-intercepts were different, then they would have been parallel. But because they actually go through the same point, it's actually neither. They're actually the exact same line. I missed that. So they're always intersecting because they lie on top of one another, so they can't be parallel. Any other questions on this? Apple, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. So, it was about numbers. It says like, put A for perpendicular. So it doesn't have to be negative or.
Yeah, this one was negative
Also, when you.
when you solved it.
Yeah.
Alright. So today we're going to start our linear regression notes. We'll do some examples together. So first, if you don't have your calculator, you need to go grab it. Great. First, before we get into the actual linear regression line and best fit part, I'm going to go back and do this review. Because a lot of this is putting numbers back into the equation, looking at the table, figuring out what that would be. So if I were given like this table, I'd have to put -2 in for all of my x's and figure out what that is. So I'm going to do this one by hand and then we'll look at this one in the table. So this would be the same as me putting -2 in for x. And simplifying. So this would be -6 minus 4, so -10. And I could keep doing that all the way through. The only thing that's changing is my x value. Everything else is staying the same. 3 times -1 is -3. -3 minus 4 is -7. When I put 0 in, I just get -4. As we keep doing this, we kind of see this pattern that these are going up by 3 each time, which kind of makes sense because your slope should be constant throughout all these points. So if I had to take a guess, I could say that this one should be -1 and this one should be 2. And then I could also look at the table and find these values as well. -2x is fine. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to clear out my calculator. All of the buttons I pressed are going to be down here, so if you miss something, look down here. But it's second plus 712 to reset it. Because everyone uses these calculators, there could be a bunch of different data everywhere. And then I'm going to go into my y equals and put in that equation. -2x plus 5, is that what it was? Your x button is right here, next to alpha, or you can use alpha x. And then I'm going to hit second graph. And I can see all of my values in my table. So if I'm looking for a specific one that I don't see, I can scroll up or scroll down to find that. And then fill out my table. So 13, 9, 5, 1, -3. Your slope's still at work there. It's counting by 2s, so it's a little off. So anytime you need to look at data or look at specific values, go to your table.
Well, if you write that in, what do you do?
Second table. And the table pops up. If you don't hit second, or you hit second too many times, it'll like cancel that action out and I'll just go into graph. So be careful with that. Yes. Yes. Okay. Now we're gonna do this example one that's in kind of the steps. So when we are given a random set of data, whatever, we're gonna use these steps to find the line of best fit. So it won't fit all of the data points exactly, but it'll go through it or through most of them and fit the majority of them. So you'll see it here in a second. So we're gonna go into stat edit, and you should see this L1, L2. So again, don't watch with me, do with me. We're going to put our time from your paper into L1 and our grades from the paper into L2. You should have 6 numbers for each. Everyone have those numbers in their L1 and L2? So after we put those in there, we're going to go back to Stat. We're going to scroll over to Calculate, so use the arrow, go over to Calc. And we're looking for linear regression. So this format that we're looking for is going to be very similar to our slope-intercept form. They use A instead of M. It's the same thing. So we're going to use that number 4. And you should get to this screen. This is just telling us our X's are in L1, which we want. Our Y's are in L2, which we want. Don't worry about the frequent list. We also want to store this in our Y equals. So go down to Store Regression Equation is what that stands for. Hit Alpha Trace. And these are all the different places you can store it. It doesn't really matter where. I just always put it in the first one. You can hit Enter or 1. And then you're going to calculate it. So hit Enter again, and one more time. And you should get something that looks like this. When questions ask you for the line of best fit, you're going to write this down, not with all of the decimals. You can round to 2 decimal places. But we're going to store this in our store it in our calculator so we get all of those decimals. So on the next page, it asks for the line of best fit. So we're going to write in Y equals rounded to 2 decimal places, so 6.01 x plus 53.62. So that would be your line of best fit. I probably should have wrote that all on the white part, my bad. Because we stored this in our Y equals or our Y1, the next couple of questions, we can use our calculator to find those answers without having to type all of those back in. So I'm going to go back to the home screen, second mode. The next question asks us to find or to predict the grade given for a student who studied for 0 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my x value equal to 0. So I'm going to put 0, use this STO with the arrow that's store for x. So I put that number in, yes. I put that number in for x. Now I'm going to go back and grab my equation. We stored it in y1 unless you stored it in somewhere else. So I'm going to go back and grab alpha trace, or go back to alpha trace, and hit y1. So remember, that's our equation with all of our decimals that has the variable x in it. Now we're saying that x is 0, so it's going to solve this for me when x is 0. So whatever that answer is, round to 2 decimal places, and that would be the answer for a student who stayed for 0 hours. 53.62. If at any point you get lost, please say something.
That first something wrong with
I would say go back to the main screen. You can redo this. So restore as x, restore 0 as x. Main screen is second mode. And then restore 0 as x. 0 SPO x. And then go back to alpha trace. You have to store 0 for x. 0. So and then press alpha trace. And then okay. The next one we're going to do is for 6-hour sitting. We're going to do the same process, except we're going to change our x value to be 6. So 6 stow x. Now our x value is 6. Go back up, grab your alpha y equal, or your y1 from alpha trace. And it's now going to solve it when x is 6. Again, round to 2 decimal places, so 89.69. The last part we actually need to solve, or you could look at your table. So I'll show you how to solve it first, and then show you how to put it in the table, and then that'll probably be all we have time for today. So for this last one, it's asking how many hours do we need to study to get more than 100%. So we could set this equation kind of greater than 100. I'm going to do this in this space. We don't really have room. And you would solve for x. Subtract 53.52 or 62 on both sides. And divide both sides by 6.01. So in this problem, they would have to study at least more than, they would have to study more than 7.72 hours in order to get more than 100%. So remember that we put that equation in y1. So once you finish writing, I'm going to go back to the calculator. If you need me to go back, just give me 1 second, I'll do that. Go into your table. So you don't need to put anything in y1 because it's already there. So go into your table. And we're looking for our y value to be over 100. So I see as I go down, this is getting higher. So somewhere between 7 and 8 would be my answer. If I wanted to know specifically, I could change my table. So if I go into second window, that's your table set, and I go into this part, this changes how much you're counting by in the table. So I can say I want to count by 0.5, and I'm going to start at 7. And then I'm going to go back to my table and see if that helped. Not really. It's closer, but I still see it's between 0.75 and 8. I could go back and I could change it again. Let's say I want to look at every 10th, and I'm going to start at 7.5. Now I see that at 7.8 hours, I would get over 100. So you could find that on your table as well. So far, do we have any questions on anything we did today? Okay, you have steps that literally walk you through this. We're going to do more of this on Tuesday, not Monday, because I won't see you. I did finish grading your tests. I think for everyone that finished it. So be double checking your grade. I'll have printed out progress reports on Tuesday. And then I'll say something about Tuesday next week. You guys can go ahead and put calculators back.